Oh, okay. Well, this was, just to be honest, I brought in something light because it was easier. And what I brought in actually was this record. Now, it's hard for you to see what it is, but it's actually Easy by the Commodores. And it's still got its not for sale sticker on it because this was a promotional copy which I had. And I brought it in because I promoted this record originally. And it's amazing how hard it was for me to get the Commodores played on Radio 1 back in 1977. And it's something that makes me realise that first of all, the powers that be don't always get it right. And secondly, it's one of those things that people, when you have a hit record, they say, oh, it was always a hit. You know, nobody actually had to work particularly hard to make it a hit. It was always a hit. And it's just a reminder of kind of what people can do if they persist, both the obvious from the band, but also from my Motown days. Actually, interestingly enough, my oldest son is also an artist manager, and so I watch what he has to do. It's different, but he certainly gets the job satisfaction from it. You know, he's building kind of career artists from the ground up, and when you see each one of them just take a little step forward, it makes you realise that, yeah, it's still, that aspect still hasn't changed. Some aspects have changed, but certainly job satisfaction, I think, is still there. That's a difficult question because it's very different in every different instance. And actually, I don't think there is any one secret. You know, the relationship is usually quite personal. And I think the longer the artist's career stays high, the longer the relationship is likely to last. You know, once the artist's career starts to dip, they usually start to look around for what's gone wrong, and it's never them. Yeah, I mean, the OBE was a surprise. I mean, there are loads. I've been in the business for at least 45 years, so there are loads of things that happen. One of the more interesting things and the funnier things was when I very first moved to LA to work with Stevie Wonder, because I was relatively young. I think I was 26, and you know, Stevie was arguably the biggest artist in the world then. And I'd been there probably about 2 weeks, and he asked me to give him a lift to his mother's house. And I was very anxious. I mean, the idea of just me driving around, you know, the biggest artist in the world in a city I didn't know was pretty daunting. So anyway, I went round and picked him up, and he got in the car. And naturally enough, I said, okay, so you want to go to your mother's, where's she live? And he said, I don't know, I'm blind. And that was probably one of the sort of tougher moments at that stage of my career. We found the house in the end. Yeah, I think everybody learns from failures and mistakes. If you don't, you're a fool. I mean, I think that everybody will have learnt from things that don't go right, you know, things that you kind of could have done better. You know, they say success has many fathers, but failure is always a bastard. And that's basically true. Data is really important. Somebody said to me a few years ago, and I didn't actually understand the significance when they said it. They said, data is the new oil. And it's basically true. Because in a world where people aren't really buying records as much, but music is getting used a lot more, being able to track the music back to its source is the only way that people are going to get paid. So the data is important. I think that most artists are beginning to get very familiar with that, they understand. I'm kind of ambivalent about the open access of fans to artists. I always felt that there was kind of a place for a kind of a magic in the industry where people feel that things just happen. You know, they don't feel that everything's engineered and manufactured. And I think that's kind of disappearing a little bit with fans being exposed to all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And I think in a way it kind of takes a little bit of a gloss off the business when people don't feel that the artist kind of does everything for themselves. I think there's always going to be a role for people who kind of fund the creativity. In the Middle Ages, people would fund the artisans or whatever. And I think there's always going to be that role, and I think that the major labels fulfill that. And also, they actually accumulate in one place quite a lot of expertise. People have kind of done it before. People who learn from one experience across to another. So I don't think that the major labels are going to disappear anytime soon. You can't take that much money out of the business and have it still be successful as it has been. Now, this is quite interesting actually, because I have a bit of a bee in my bonnet. I mean, I don't know if you know, but I kind of wrote the music business module on the honours degree in commercial music at the University of Westminster quite a long time ago. And people talk about education and training as if they're kind of interchangeable words, and they're not. I think if you educate people to work in the music business, that's a good thing. I think if you try and train people to work in the business, that's a problem. If I was training people, I'd be training for the business that I was in and I knew, and that's obsolete. Hopefully the people that I worked with as students were educated to kind of see the possibilities. The ideal student for me is somebody who kind of wants to be an agent of change, but needs to kind of understand the fundamental ground rules and then go on and do something with it, rather than somebody who's trained as a round peg to fit in a round hole. It actually makes me smile that Cobalt basically have done a job on the business to try and, it's a bit like hyping an artist. A lot of the people who extol the virtues of Cobalt basically have either never used another system or are totally unaware of what the other companies have to offer. In my opinion, bearing in mind I am the Director of Performer Affairs at PPL, PPL systems are at least as good, if not better, than Cobalt's, because they have to be. Because PPL operates on a scale way beyond where Cobalt operates. And I think that a lot of people talk about, like Cobalt have got some sort of a magic recipe, some magic form. They haven't. They're just another company using decent tech to deliver money and charging people quite a significant amount for that purpose. What's life after PPL? It'll be pretty much the same as it was before PPL, I think. I've always fallen into things. I kind of see where things take me, and I find it much more interesting that way. The music business, if I think back to when I started, it was never supposed to be a career. I sometimes kind of laughingly refer to it as my career, but it's not a career. It's a series of accidents, and I'm not sure what the next accident's going to be yet. Well, that's quite a difficult question, because there are so many people that I respect and admire over the years. I think the best ambassadors, people don't set out to be that. I think it's people who have just done something which people find admirable, like Berry Gordy, or Chris Blackwell. People have kind of built a label or a roster, along a philosophy, and people admire that. I think those are the kind of key ambassadors for the business. Well, you see, here's the thing. I actually wouldn't take 3 pieces of music to a desert island. At best, I would take my guitar. There's absolutely no way I would just take 3 great pieces of music, because I'd be bound to get sick of it. I think there are 3 key ingredients to an artist. One, obviously, is creativity. The second is talent, whatever that talent might be. Sometimes it's the talent, may be just a talent at getting themselves noticed. It may be just a talent at being a good songwriter, but you need the talent. And the third thing is you need a work ethic. You need to be prepared to work. A lot of people think, I just have to be talented and then the world will find me. It doesn't happen. The best artists that make it big work really hard. What happens, I think, is that those kind of countercultures unfortunately get discovered too early in the modern music business. And once they get discovered, they get worked to death before they have a chance to fully develop. There have been lots of scenes I've built in recent years which have been really promising, but then people kind of jump on them too soon before they're fully formed, and really push them and push them and push them. And actually, because they haven't had time to develop, they kind of disappear into dust. I think it's a bit difficult. I think in a world of social media, in a world where people pick up on things instantly, I think it's quite hard to develop a counterculture.